You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Friday, February 28th, 2020. We also are in the season of Lent. This week we are talking about Lent. We've already talked about what Lent is, how it is a time of repair before Easter. We've talked about what we see during Lent, what we hear and feel, and we talked about why we get the ashes on Ash Wednesday. Yesterday, we started talking about the various things we are called to do during Lent so that we have more room in our lives for Jesus Christ. We've already talked about giving and fasting. Today, we are going to talk about prayer. Now, prayer is easily the most important thing that we are called to do during Lent. And I know it's the hardest thing too. Giving and fasting are really concrete things that we can track. We can say, hey, look, I didn't play video games for 40 whole days. And I spent 10 minutes with my younger brother every day this week. We can track it. We can feel good about it. Prayer, of course, is a little bit more loosey-goosey. It's hard to nail it down. Also, it's not uncommon for us to spend time in prayer and not get anything out of it. And that's not just something that happens to children. Even great saints like Mother Teresa went through long periods of her life where she would pray, but not necessarily feel God's grace being poured out on her. Of course it was, but it just didn't have that feeling. Now, I just want you to acknowledge that before we talk about prayer today. Prayer is about showing up. Prayer is about saying, God, I'm going to spend this time with you each day. It's about setting that appointment and not letting anything else get in the way of that appointment. It's like saying you're going to meet your friend at this time in this place, and you make sure you are there. Can you imagine how your friend would feel if you made an appointment to be with them, and then you decided, I just don't feel like it today, and you just didn't go? Well, that friend would feel pretty terrible, wouldn't they? And they probably wouldn't want to be your friend for very long. Thankfully, God is so much more loving and merciful than any friend that we ever could make on this earth. But the same concept applies. If you make a resolution to pray during Lent each day for even 5 minutes at a certain time and in a certain place, really stick to that resolution, because standing God up is the same thing as standing up your friend. Don't do it. Now, here is something I want you to consider as you set your prayer resolution for Lent. Number 1, I want you to consider doing something as a family, and you can talk to your parents about this. Figure out something special that you can do for Lent. My family will be doing the Jesus Tree devotional, which is a beautiful thing to do as a family, but there are always many other things to do as a family during Lent. The next thing I want you to consider is what you will do all on your own for prayer this Lent, and I have some ideas for you. Number 1, I encourage you to give God the 5 minutes you're laying in bed each night before you fall asleep. You don't have to come up with your own prayer. You can simply say, okay, I'm going to say an Our Father, Hail Mary, and Glory Be each night before I fall asleep. That could be a beautiful Lenten resolution. Maybe you give God the 5 minutes in the morning when you wake up. You could also say a simple prayer then. I also think a really beautiful thing to do would be to challenge yourself to read some scripture all by yourself each day. There's a lot of great Bibles made specifically for people your age. You could find one at the library or your school, or ask for one from your parents. But I challenge you, whatever you decide to do, to make it something that you alone accomplish and something that you do every day. Now, don't get discouraged if you miss a couple days. Don't let that mean, oh, I'm a failure, I'm just going to stop doing it. That's not how we function as Christians. As Christians, we know we're sinners. We know that we will fail, but we are determined to get back up, to try again tomorrow. So set a resolution for something that you will do all on your own every day. 5 minutes each day is a great start. Write it down. And that is my challenge for you for today. After you have done that, you will have 3 beautiful resolutions for this Lent. Things that you can give, fast from, and the prayer that you will add to your daily life.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be. Well, I hope you are enjoying listening to Father K this week. As you listen, I have 2 challenges for you to work through all week long. First of all, pray very hard for priests, particularly for the priest that serves your parish. And next, spend time in prayer, contemplating if God is calling you to a vocation in the priesthood or religious life. Wonder about that. Ask God and spend time having Him answer that question for you.